Thank you to all members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for today's meeting. Councillors and officers are reminded of their commitment to the civility and respect pledge and to be mindful of this during the meeting. And I want to say on a personal note, I know we're discussing some issues today on which feelings run high. I want to say to everyone here, criticism of officers and councillors and indeed anyone else is legitimate, but it must not cross a line into some kind of personal attack. And I am the chair, I run things don't run I. And I will be exercising my discretion to err on the side of kindness as far as that is concerned. Please be aware that the council video is recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off, and I'm just checking that myself. Or set to silent. The fire exits are cleanly marked, with the primary exit being through the main entrance. The assembly point is outside Tesco Express store. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person. As chair, I will interject if needed to enforce this, and to enforce on members of the public the standards of civility I will enforce on councillors or officers. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak, and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure you can be heard across the room. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of the agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state your point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the council, I would like to thank everyone for attending today's meeting. And that takes us to tonight's first item of business, which is apologies for absence. Councillor
Apologies for absence this evening come from Councillor Meek for work commitments, Councillor Horrow for work commitments, Councillor Manucci for work commitments, Councillor Butland for work commitments, Councillor Rich Sturgeon for personal commitments, and also just to note that Steve Bell, Town Clerk, is away on a conference and couldn't be here this evening.
Thank you. So in accordance with our recently adopted practice, I would like to ask anyone to propose to accept the apologies for absence on block ground proposal. Councillor Matthews, seconded by Councillor Walraven. All in favour? This brings us to the second item of business, which is disclosure of interests. To receive any disclosure by councillors of interests that they are aware of in relation to matters on the agenda, whether registered or not, and confirmation of any procedural steps they will take because of this. Councillor Borman.
Thank you, Chair, I'd just like to say I'm the outside body representative for the Seaford Town Football Club. Although I've sent an initial email to introduce myself, I haven't met with them yet until we've finished this agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Berwin. Any others? In that case, we proceed to the third item, which is public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public physically in the meeting room in accordance with the relevant legislation and town council policy. And I will ask anyone who wants to speak, if they are able, to stand up and speak into the microphone, and I will take those in turn, reminding you that participation is limited to 4 minutes. Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, sir. Gentleman in the blue. Okay, gentleman in the blue t-shirt. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andy Shields. I'm here notionally representing correctional servants, but also as an individual that lives locally. Note with interest the contents of the Master's report, and I think most people in correctional servants would broadly support them. We've been meeting with the football club several times to talk about this, and there's definitely a new openness and much more of a collegiate approach to thinking about what might happen in the coach. The main issue for me personally has always been the science. Just always seemed incredibly inappropriate to have science in a public park, spoiling the view of Seaford Head, and they're actually without permission of the landowner. Delighted to see a proposal is on the table that the council officers are asking you to support. Of course, if you do choose to support it, you will create a precedent, but that's a matter that we elect you as councillors to consider, and we hope you reach a conclusion which works for Seaford and all the open spaces in Seaford and all the sports clubs in Seaford. The other recommendations, such as the access arrangements during games, seem like a very sensible solution to local residents who probably don't want to pass through the park during a game, but some people might, and some people with disability issues might arrive at the end of the Twitter and not have the energy to go home and find a different route. And if they're able to pass through the coach, that's brilliant. But I see the recommendations as significant progress on these matters, and I hope that you can all support them tonight.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the gentleman in the black t-shirt to stand up?
Hi, so I'm Jerry Lyons, representing the Seaford Town Football Club. You'll be pleased to know that peace is broken out between Seaford Town Football Club and Crouch Concerns. It's amazing, I've got to talk straight here, what can happen when people just talk to each other. We've had a cultural reset of the club. It's very much before and after. There's a chairman, I won't go into his name, but caused a lot of problems. You all know, he's gone. Our chairwoman, Sarah Scott, she's done great work. It's a committee of volunteers who are doing great work. We've had great chats with Andy and Bob and the other Andy from Crouch Concerns. And I think with your help, because we need your help, let's not beat about the bush, we can get a lot sorted for the club. The club realises that all of us are just custodians of the Crouch. That said, the picture kind of is a joke, so these new contractors, they're not covering themselves in glory in the same way they're not covering our picture of grassy into they're not very good. So I just want to thank you all for your time. I know that if you look around, it's a very different vibe from the meeting from last time. I think that's because we've had chats together. It's great that people come together, we're doing it for the great good. It's all volunteers from us and Crouch Concerns. So yeah, I hope we can get things sorted. I would say there is a precedent though on advertising on sports buildings. I see it at the cricket club, I see it at the rugby club, and we're proposing for the same thing for the football club. So
That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other members of the public who wish to exercise their right to speak? Okay, well, I would like to thank you both and say personally that this is a real tribute to, as you yourself recognise, what can happen when people can actually see each other's point of view and see how that can work together. There's a great book by a former FBI negotiator, whose name I forget. It's called Never Split the Difference, and it's on negotiation. And his whole spiel is about negotiation, is about empathy with the other person. He calls it tactical empathy, and I think we've shown that tonight, and I would like to pay tribute to that. Which brings us on to item 4 of the agenda, petitions, which I think we have none. Do I actually have to read it out the spiel then? Okay. Which, okay, great, brings us to the papers for tonight's meeting. So this takes us to agenda item 5. Seaford Town Council, sorry, I beg your pardon, Seaford Town Football Club, updated gate and advert proposals and new proposals relating to a spectator stand and clubhouse external alteration to the crouch. And just to remind everyone, we are not here to litigate issues that were discussed last October. We are here to deal with matters that were left unaddressed then, of which there are 4, which I will take in turn. I will invite councillors who want to speak to have a limited time to raise general questions, concerns, or make their positions known. Councillor Dubass.
Hi. Great news of the car and the collaboration that's gone on. But I just find myself wondering what the temporary adverts are going to be like that are going to be just on the side of the picture stand and taken off again. There's nothing in the report to explain to me what those are going to look like. What are they? What's the cost of stuff, please?
Okay, I mean, with your permission, Councillor Dubass, I will ask officers to respond to that question specifically, but I do wonder if there's anyone who wants to raise some general points first. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I mean that relates. The 4 specific items we are here to discuss are adverts, to which your question relates, gates, spectator stand, and cages to the clubhouse. You hit the nail on the head for the first one. I wonder, does anyone have any general comment before we come to it? Councillor Markwell.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, well, first of all, congratulate everyone, because I think there's been fantastic work, clearly, that's gone on in the community for the last 6 months, but also, I think, through the officers as well, because they've made themselves clearly very available and have been very engaged with the war. I was on the football, I was on at Seaford Rec with my colleague Councillor Lord last year. We didn't get to, we only got to one meeting actually, but clearly things have changed a lot, and I just, think that's really impressive work all around. I just wanted to raise just a notional comment about the advert that will go and maybe be permanent on top of the new stand. I know that there are going to be adverts near the clubhouse, and also I'm in favour of the adverts coming on and off the new barrier. I know we're looking at the barrier at the next item on the agenda, so I'm going to discuss that at the moment. And I think this is again another good step forward. I was just wondering about the stand barrier notice on the top, and whether that remains when the football club aren't using the crouch, or whether, and that is removable, or whether it stays as a permanent fixture. That's my only question.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Markwell. Since adverts are clearly what people want to speak about, I would ask our head of place, Mr. Cousin, to address both Councillor Dubast's question and Councillor Markwell's lines.
So specifically on the temporary bar, this actually wasn't a specific request from the football club at this time. It was a recommendation from myself actually that we allow our other clubs to put pop-up banners when they're hiring the pitch. So this was about being consistent with them. I don't believe the football club can actually have any intention of attaching anything to the barriers currently, but also that they have the ability in the future. This could be feather flags and things like that, stuff that could go up and then be taken down in the air. But the club don't actually have any intentions to do that in the near future. Specifically on the adverts on the stand, those would be left out permanently on the stand. It's just the pitch side adverts would be removed, and those would be allowed to go up and down when they're hiring a pitch.
I see Councillor Dunn, I see Councillor Matthews. I'm not going to take second questions until everyone who wants to speak for the first time has had an opportunity to do so. So Councillor Dunn.
As we're on the subject of adverts, I totally agree with the committee saying that we've moved on and it's good to see that there is conversation. Regarding adverts, is there a way that we can make sure that we don't flood the ground with too many? Is there a way that we can limit them in size? How many of them? Visually appropriate, obviously, to a public open space, and to avoid bright or intrusive colours. Because obviously this is in the heart of a residential area and it is a public open space. So can all of that be taken into consideration so that we don't actually sort of go over the top with them and that they're appropriate to keep them in line with the crouch as an open space?
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. I will in a moment invite our head of place, Mr. Cousin, to respond. And just 2 points that I'm sure you're already aware of is firstly that I'm absolutely sure that the Seaford Town Football Club will be fastidious in complying with the terms of their planning permission. But secondly, we as the owner of the crouch, we are entitled to if councillors ask for it, we are entitled to impose any such conditions with the use of the site as we feel appropriate if subject to decision of the council. Mr. Cousin.
So I just draw your attention to pages 17 and 18 of the report, which has the specific diagrams of the adverts. And there is, obviously it doesn't specify what it will be advertised, but it shows the size and the location to go. This is only incentives to go, there's no additional advertising other this. When it comes to kind of colour and appropriateness, I think we could currently be more difficult to specify. However, I believe we could put something in a clause to say that the advert should not be of offensive nature.
Thank you. And Councillor Matthews.
Thank you. Yes, back on 23rd October, I understand one of the sticking points for the football club were the adverts on the barriers, and that was there was the time taken to put adverts onto the barriers and take them off, and having a number of volunteers in order to do that pre and post match, because you're asking maybe the football players to take them off the barriers and then put them in storage. And I just asked Mr. Cousin, What kind of conversations you've had with the club around time taken to remove, place on adverts, remove them, storage?
Following on from our meeting, the proposal now is it was generally deemed not practical to put the adverts up and take them down every match, and our following conversations confirmed that. So that is why they are requesting that they take down the pitch side barriers that are allowed to have those permanent adverts on the clubhouse and stay permanently. And so those who stay there permanently, the idea of putting up temporary signs is just an option that we want to make open to them, instead of having to bring them back to another full council should in the future they say actually can we put up a further down, can we put up a small banner, having that permission in place already. But that will be only during the period they are on the pitch.
So that issue is resolved. I suppose that's the point.
So the issue is resolved in that they won't be putting them up and taking them down. They would just have those permanent ones, and they have looked at the way that they do sponsorship to try to find other ways they can, and other benefits they can give to their sponsors, so they don't require the financial benefit from the adverts being on the page.
Councillor Richard Honeyman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for letting me speak. This is the others. So, well, let's check the episode of standards authority. It does cover football ground, and I assume this is a football ground. So, all the type of adverts and what you actually display, I'm sure that's covered in that particular, all the complicated edict of what comes out of that particular, basically quagga, isn't it? So, I hope you're aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to respond?
All I say is yes, that would be my understanding. That as it is an advert, it would have the same rules and regulations as any public.
Okay, does anyone who has not yet been given the question, we're going to ask Councillor Bristow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased to see this report come forward. It does build slightly on the stuff which came in October, and I'm very pleased that the atmosphere in this meeting is a lot more calm than it was in October and isn't fueled by inaccurate assumptions. Actually, I used to get on really, really well with the previous chairman, even though we disagreed on things, often polar opposites. I did admire his entrepreneurial spirit and his drive to push the club forward. The adverts, if anyone watched the video of the recent planning and highways meeting, which I'm sure everyone with an interest would have done, you would have seen me speak in favour of, that it's a really, I think, sensible way forward in terms of having adverts on the clubhouse and on the newsstand should it be given approval, subject to planning consent. Can the officers tell me whether planning consent has already been granted or not? I assume that's gone by delegation to officers at LDC. I don't know whether you're able to verbally update us for this meeting. The one aspect I would touch on with regard to adverts is, well, it's split into twofold. Adverts for when the pitch is booked out, be they temporary, as looks the way that it's going. Personally, I'm very happy that that's included within the match booking fee. The adverts which would be we've currently got one displayed on the grandstand, which is leased, and the ones which, if they're given consent, the various consents would be on the clubhouse and the new spectator stand. I understand would be up there permanently, and therefore I'm unclear whether or how we as a council would comply with our other policy, which has come about as inherited by LDC, which says that no one without consent of the council provider offer to provide any service for which a charge is made. Now you may think I'm just quoting some legal gobbledygook. It is an old thing, it's come across, but it has informed and underpinned our council's operations throughout all of our open spaces, and as someone who's chaired that committee for the last 3 years, I'm quite familiar with it in terms of events and so on. Anything we do, we seek to charge a levy for, even if it's small. One of the things which has really irked local residents is the fact that effectively the football club have had free advertising 24/7 at the Crouch for years on end, and the council, and therefore the ratepayers of the town, haven't had anything back for that. Now, I'm not going to suggest any percentages or facts or figures, but I would like to know from officers how you plan to square that circle and balance that, so that presumably the reason why the football club would like presumably their sponsors to advertise is to generate income for the club, but also that it's recognised that the council is de facto providing a service for them to do that, a facility for them to do that. So I'd like a bit of commentary on that, and then how we can then communicate that aspect to residents, please. But yeah, I'm really pleased with what's come forward. Will we get a chance later to speak on the gates?
You will.
Okay.
I'm going to take them.
Right.
So thank you,
Okay, so I'll
Councillor.
leave it there. Thank you.
And so, specifically on the planning, I'm still catching up with emails. I've seen that the advertising consent has been given, and that's going to be seen. I haven't yet seen whether the other planning consent has come through. I haven't seen such a
No, not this stage. I think there's an issue with our planning committee around the numbers that were listed, that was listed correctly. So I haven't seen an update that approves it as yet.
Yeah, so at the moment, it's just the advertising consent that has been approved that I'm aware of. In terms of the advertising, so I think the advertising that has been proposed here is specifically within the lease in which they pay rent for, and it is, I would have to go to check, and I think they should be in the lease. It does allow provision for advertising without consent. So that is how it is covered, and that is how we are remunerated for that, because they pay rent on the lease.
Okay. Councillor Rubas.
Thank you. So I just want to seek clarity, please. I asked you about the temporary adverts, and you said that it was just a notional idea and it was your idea. However, the response to Councillor Matthews was contradicting that. And you said that, yes, that was something you were going to put in place in case they wanted it in future. However, we're being asked to vote on section 3 adverts, and specifically 3.3b, which says club to display temporary adverts. You still haven't told me what those temporary adverts are, so that's different to what you said earlier to me. So I'd like you to clarify that, please.
So I'm a little confused, but it's permission to be granted. This is not to say that there is any specific plans in place to do it. It's just to be consistent with our other clubs. So we're saying we have permission to put up those temporary adverts if you so choose, but they must be taken down by the local manager. We haven't got a specific idea of what they look like, but they have permission there to go with that, as we give to the other clubs. It's so that if we then get another request from the football club to be able to put up a temporary advert, we don't have to bring it back to full council.
But because we don't know what it looks like, how can we give permission?
Well,
I mean, you have the discretion, Councillor Rubas, to not give permission.
Can I just on that one, is if you go to when Premier hire their pitch, they take up like a board. Advertising goes alongside there. The cricket club do the same. The rugby club do the same. They all have similar signage of that nature. I think my understanding of Peter is explicitly saying that they have the opportunity to do that and take it in if they need it. I don't think we've ever been prescriptive as to what those signs are like. in terms of form, but as long as it's consistent with that of other clubs, I think we'll be happy to take that. It's okay.
Okay. If there's no other submissions on adverts, this councillor Weirman.
General question, if you look at section 2.3 on page 7, it's much more about the time scale. I'm just thinking, bearing in mind this is an extraordinary extra general meeting, brought out specially because of the time scale to help the club meet the 31st of July deadlines. Are we assured that everything's on track for that? Having made this extra, if you like, council meeting to encapsulate to help the club in their progress. Are we sure that this is going to happen in the timescales? Bearing in mind everything else happening?
Yes, I believe it will happen within the timescales. So the main thing is it has to be done. It's got to have the permission in place so that the league can see that there is a way forward that it will be compliant. Obviously, the planning consent, we're not aware of that's come back yet, but that has been submitted, and that will have been submitted in time, and it should be back long before that date. The only other permission that will be required is specifically in terms of changing the garage into a stand because of the restrictive covenants that the Lewis District have. Generally, Lewis District have been fairly quick at coming back to us on those, so we're hoping once we have permission from the full council to go straight to Lewis District and make that request, and that will be dealt with in time. So, yes, it is looking hopeful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cousin, and thank you, Councillor Wilmer, for your question. Unless there's anything else generally on adverts, I'm going to proceed to ask if any councillor wishes to raise any matter in relation to the gates. Councillor Bristol.
Thank you. Yeah, the gates, as a ward councillor, I have over the years received a lot of communication about the gates. I understand the FA requirements, and I also sympathise with the apparent difficulty of getting volunteers, even though over the years we've been assured that the volunteers aren't available. So at the last meeting, not wishing to go back into history, we left it that effectively a technological solution would be, or a solution aided by technology would be found with intercom, and that has moved on by my reading to one involving a mobile phone and a volunteer manning that, which in itself sounds like a good thing. However, I do worry about all the discussion we had at last meeting and in the working group about safety in the crouch, and in particular the Martin's Law, which came in after the terrorist incident in Manchester, whereby the exit requirements for stadiums and other public local spaces needed to be addressed. I wonder whether officers have gone back to that and decided perhaps it doesn't apply, or if it does apply, how will the solution of having a volunteer with a mobile phone cover essentially 5 or 6 locked and unmanned gates? I do worry about if the place needs to be cleared quickly, how would that work? And also I'd just like a bit of clarification on the gate by the Mercreeds, because I know that users of the Mercreed Centre and the managers of the Mercreed Centre have concerns about fire escape, and indeed just because the centres tend to be split into the hiring with the gymnasium and the front of the centre and 2 different access points, that people would be able to go at any point during their hire or during a match through that particular gate. I know we're talking about sort of push exits and so on, so if I could have a bit more detail on that and clarification as to what does and doesn't apply in terms of safety, I'd be really grateful. Thank you.
So on the safety, we looked at the FA guidance on this specifically, and the FA feel that it's 2 exits that are manned are sufficient for the crowd sizes they are receiving, with the proviso that those that are not open are labelled as not exits. That is the guidance from the FA currently. When it comes to Martin's Law, there isn't any specific guidance on this. It is, and it will be the football club's responsibility as the event owner to put in place a process for evacuation. If they came to us and said that we have gone through this process and that we believe that it will require additional exits, then we can have that discussion with them. But the Martin's Law doesn't specify to that level of detail about how many exits per amount of people. But the FA recommends 2 exits per amount of people, which is what they currently manage. Creed, what I can do is I can go and speak to the Creed directly from this and ask them if they require that fire exit push bar be added to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to raise any issues about the gates?
I've got to one something.
Okay, well, we can only take it if no one else wants to. We can only take it now if no one else wants to speak for a second. Then Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, it's just a comment really. So I know that back in October the practicalness of the intercom and the cost was of a concern to the club. So I just want to let people coming to being able to resolve the issue again. So
Okay. Does anyone else wish to comment before I invite Councillor Bristol to ask a follow-up? In that case, Councillor Bristol.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, there was just one aspect that I forgot to include, which was, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, currently the gates would be expected to be locked and manned until half-time, whereas this is proposing that the gates are essentially locked until full-time. Can I have an assurance that 2 of those exits would be manned that whole time, and that the volunteer with the phone would be, that would be available for the whole time that this is in place? Thank you.
Yeah, that would be consistent with the current closing arrangement, just extended. That is actually one of the considerations, and this is something that I suggested actually to the football club, was actually with Martin's Law coming in. One thing that they will need to do is be able to control the crowd in some shape or form, and if they use the ability to close the gates, that could be difficult.
Okay, if councillors are content with that level of discussion over the gates, we proceed to anyone who wishes to raise any issues or questions or comments in relation to the conversion of the garage into a second spectator stand. Does anyone have any comments on that aspect of the proposal? Councillor Dunn.
Yes, thank you. I understand that this is a garage that wishes to be converted into a stand. I've got that straight. I take it that this garage is used for storage of their equipment, don't they, football? So if this loss of the garage, can I know where they're going to store the equipment if we're taking the storage unit away?
The football club haven't specifically shared with me, or they haven't asked me for additional storage areas or anything, so I can only assume that they have found somewhere else for that equipment, either within their lease or on the other side.
Well, I'll wait a moment. Does anyone else wish to raise any issues in relation to the spectator stand construction? In that case, Councillor Dunn. No, Councillor Lister.
Yeah, actually I didn't really want to raise an issue. I just wanted to say that I thought this was a very sensible proposal to keep within the existing footprint as far as possible, albeit changing it obviously what it's used for. Can officers remind me whether that's already included in the leased area, and if not, will that be put into a new lease? I think it's already included.
It's included in the leased area.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Is there any way officers can check where this equipment is going to be stored? Because is there anywhere else in the crowd? Are we likely to see another planning application and permission from the council as to we now need a unit to store the equipment from the garage? Could that please be looked into?
I will speak to the football club and ask that question.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, the only reassurance I could give to councillors as a whole is that were such an application to be put forward, we would be able to consider it on its merits and refuse it if it was not well done. As landowner. Okay, let's move on to the proposals for changes to the clubhouse. Does anyone want to comment on these aspects of the proposal? Councillor Markwell.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I think this has been really well thought through. I think, getting rid of an old garage and improving a clubhouse and having a stand and having maybe in the next item a new fence, this is going to enormously improve the visuals around the Crouch. I think the investment is, I think the preparedness for the investment is sound, and I congratulate the architect, but the organisation and the planning of this, because I think it's really it's really hard when buildings are dilapidated and there's lots of improvements that are required. Maybe you've got to think about scandals, things like that. So I kind of think that improvements in the fabric make such a difference to the environment. So I fully support that. And also congratulations to the officers for providing such colourful reports and pictures, because actually it does help enormously.
Thank you, Councillor Mark. Are there any other comments on these aspects of the proposals? In which case, I think we are ready to move to a vote. So the first recommendation for which I would seek a proposer is to note the content of the report. Do I have a proposer? I have Councillor Weirmouth, seconded by Councillor Markwell. All in favour? Thank you. The second recommendation is to approve in principle the proposed change in display of adverts as per section 3 of the report of 30 of 2026, subject to Seaford Town Football Club obtaining the necessary advertising consent. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Olivia Honeyman, seconded by Councillor Liz Borman. All in favour? Okay, and so the third recommendation is to approve the proposed system for gate management of the Crouch through closed football matches as per section 4 of report 30 of 2026. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Matthews, seconded by Councillor Markwell. All in favour? To approve, in principle, the change of use of the garage into an additional spectator stand and installation of an associated access path, subject to Seaford Town Football Club obtaining the necessary permissions. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Borman, seconded by Councillor Lord. All in favour? Okay, 5. Subject to the approval of recommendation 4, which has been approved, to approve in principle the display of advertising on the new spectator stand, subject to Seaford Town Football Club obtaining the necessary advertising consent. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Lord. Do I have a successor? As a secondary, we have Councillor Matthews. All in favour? Finally, to approve in principle the creation of a raised standing area within the external covered area of the clubhouse. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Gorman, seconded by Councillor Walraven. All in favour? Okay. Before we move on to the next paper, which is related, I would just like to thank everyone involved in it, and I mean everyone. So that includes the original Town Council working group, if it's not to go to congratulate the group involved and myself, to officers especially, to consultees including Council Concerns and Seaford Town Football Club, and to everyone here present as council.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, this brings us to item 6 on the agenda, replacement of pitch side barrier at the Crouch, which can be found on pages 22 to 24 of the report. Well, I hand over to our head of place, Mr. Custom, to introduce this item.
Thank you. So since writing the report, we have begun to look into more ways of funding. We are finding a few challenges, but we will continue to look at finding the rest of the funding. But I welcome any questions of the report.
Okay, does anyone wish to raise any questions? Councillors? Councillor Bass?
Looks at the Football Foundation funding, and it says that you can't apply for it if you are National League Step 1 to 6, and I've no idea what league they're in. Could you advise, please?
I would have to double check that and come back to you. Our proposal is that we can apply for it with the football club support, so that us applying for it with the football club supporting our bid is what we're currently doing. But my understanding is that the foundation do cover this thing.
Councillor Bristol.
Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to see this money coming through. This is something which actually, over 3-4 years ago, the then chairman and I came forward with, because a lot of the community, when the fence was mooted, said, why can't we just have an improved pitch surround barrier? Something that's see-through like this, that people don't fear for their safety, something that complies with the FA regulations, and something that obviously makes football easier to play when you can ball in, and something which temporary adverts may be attached to during the time of the pitch. So, fantastic. I know we've had a huge change of staff since then, so thanks very much for bringing it forward, and to the football club as well. Some of the sticking points that have been mentioned in the past are the ownership of the pitch surround barrier. In this report, it clearly states that the Town Council are responsible for the white railing, and the infills were added by the football club, which is fine. But could officers please clarify the ownership, confirm the ownership as it would be envisaged going forward? Because there were, and there still are, a large lot of questions about, for example, public liability and so on, and leasing, and I note that the report seeks to delegate authority to enter into a deed of dedication. I'm also aware that a deed of dedication is due to be forthcoming for the Crouch with fields and trusts, and I'd like to understand whether this is something which is going to be included in that deed of dedication, or whether this is somehow a separate deed of dedication. So if you could sort of clarify the landscape a bit and the arrangements as you would envisage going forward, I would be very grateful. Thank you.
So to be clear, it is currently in our ownership, and any new barrier will continue to be in our ownership. There's no suggestion for the football club to take on the ownership of the barrier. When it comes to deed of dedication, this is a separate deed of dedication to the Fields and Trust. So this is specifically, and most of the funders that we are looking at will say that you have to keep it in place and not remove it for at least 5 years. So that's just allowing us to make that commitment without having to come, because deed of dedication has to be approved by full council, so it's to prevent us having to come back to full council to replace that future. But it would be separate to the Fields and Trust. However, I think the Fields and Trust, this would not be a change of uses in reference to Fields and Trust, and it's likely to go through the full.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes. Councillor Durant, yes.
And 2.4, you haven't said exactly how much the fence is going to cost, but you did get quotes. So, in light of the fact that 2.3 is no idea whether we can apply for that Football Foundation grant, should we amend item 2 to say approve an amount up to X to cover the full cost through SIL in case you don't get the grant, and then we don't have to come back to full council with the money, because I think it's something we should absolutely pay for if we can't get the grant. Thank you.
So if you wish to approve, if you wish to propose an amendment to Councillor Dugas, that is your right.
I will do that then.
Okay,
So I believe that the cheapest one we currently have is around £29,000. Personally, I would welcome that option rather than.
Councillor Bristol.
I was just going to ask what the conditions are with self-funding, because does it not have to be part match funding? Can it be fully funding a particular project?
Okay, thank you.
Just one question, Councillor. So you're asking about the step 6, step 5, quick Google, and then my understanding is the funding will come from the Premier League Stadium Fund.
Yes, not that. Not the Football Foundation.
Yeah. I think it's one of the, George, you might be able to explain this better, but my understanding is it's a kind of part of the group within that as well, so you can get Football Foundation funding, but it comes via different pots, essentially.
Okay, so do we come to Councillor Dugas' amendment?
Please, can I say that we are approving item 2 up to £30,000 of council money from the SIL.
Okay, before I ask for a proposal, I would go to Councillor Bristol.
Can I ask what our SIL budget is currently, and therefore how much of the SIL pie a raise up to 30 grand represent? Thank you.
Okay, currently, and this is my estimation from memory, we definitely have in excess of £150,000. I think it's 152,000. It's in excess of that.
How much is the bid?
Currently, we probably have the projects. So I think 150,000 we have to use by October 27, but we have greater funds. We've also committed around 100,000 to the strategic plan projects. Although having said that, there is some savings that have been made on the chip paths of around 30,000 is what we have. So yeah, so probably it's about 70,000.
Okay. Councillor Gorman.
I'd just like to second Councillor Jackson's proposal.
Possibly wait until she's proposed again.
She said I proposed it.
Okay. Do we have words? So we're just changing £10,000 to £30,000. Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put implications of the reasoning why Stephanie, Councillor Bass is doing what she's doing. Well, I don't really understand the implications. Why can't 30 to 20,000 get from the Football Association? And why do you need to feel the need to do this amendment? Thank you.
I'm not sure that I'll need to take some advice on this, but can we actually cross-examine other councillors? It's not really. The bottom line is Councillor DeBass has proposed an amendment, and if we don't like it, we reject it. Councillor Briscoe.
Can I ask for clarification through the chair to Councillor DeBass about her amendment? I hope this is a diplomatic way to do it, because I mean it in a good faith and good spirit. Currently, we've got 3 recommendations on this report. The first one of 10 grand from still firms requires the additional required monies met by external funding. I was wondering whether, through the chair, Councillor DeBass, means that if within a certain time period we are not successful in obtaining external funding, that then delegated authority would be given to officers to increase that amount to, for example, £30,000 to spend, so that in best value use of public funds, we would first of all seek to get some element of match funding, and if that's not possible, officers could then look to fund the whole shebang through still. Thank you, I just welcome the clarification.
Thanks, Councillor Christo. I would invite but not require Councillor DeBass to respond to both Councillors Richard Honeyman and Councillor Christo.
So I would like to make a proposal to amend this, please, and I'd like you to say to approve up to £30,000 of still be spent on the replacement of the pitch side barrier with if additional monies are not met by external funding. And that will save this proposal coming back to the council, because we all want the barrier. So I think we do anyway, but please feel free to vote against me if you don't. So that's the reasoning and the wording.
Thank you, Councillor DeBass. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gordon. All in favour of the amendment? Okay, the amendment is carried, so we now vote on the amended recommendation 2. Do you need to read it out, Ms. Rayburn?
The amendment being voted on is to approve up to £30,000 of SIL to be spent on the replacement of the pitch side barrier if additional monies are not met by external funding.
Okay, do we have a proposer, Councillor DeBass? Do we have a seconder, Councillor Olivia Honeyman? All in favour? Thank you. And that brings us to recommendation 3, to delegate authority to the Clyde Town Park to enter into any required deed of dedication or similar commitment that the fence will remain in place for up to 10 years. And that the football pitch at the track will remain available for use by community football. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Lord, seconded by Councillor Honeyman. All in favour? Okay, so that concludes tonight's business. Thank you to everyone very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair.